everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jezelle, and today we are going to be reviewing the next 7 days. I'm recording this on the 22nd of July, and between the 23rd all the way until the 29th, we have so much happening. We're going to be moving from gaining clarity and being asked to be accountable to this culmination or peak energy of some sort as we reach the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month. And that's going to peak on the 29th of July in the morning if you're on the East Coast or if you're in the United States. What we have initially is our Mercury stationing direct. Mercury right now is in its station, meaning that it's stopping at this 1 degree point of 16 degrees and it's slowly moving forward. As it moves forward, it is going to be squaring Saturn, and Saturn is drilling down into its degree point because it's about to station retrograde. And as they square each other and they really hold down onto their degree points, they're going to be creating a lot of tension where Mercury is going to want to express and want to finally come through with the clarity and share and get things moving. And Saturn is going to say, are you sure? Is this what you really want? And if it is, are your actions going to back up your words? Are you actually going to be still committed to this in 6 months from now? If not, don't say it, don't plan it, don't take action on it, just leave it alone. If so, then make sure that your actions are backing your words. Make sure that your actions or whatever it is that you are building has integrity, has groundedness, has structure. And when Mercury stations direct, we're going to start feeling like a lot of our plans or ideas or whatever is going to start flooding in. And Saturn, as it retrogrades, we're going to start reflecting on the commitments that we are making. And we're going to want to make sure that whatever those commitments are rooted in who we are, and we're doing them for ourselves more than for someone else. So is it aligned with our identity, with our authenticity, with who we are and what we want, what we desire? And then if we fast forward a little bit more through the week, alongside some other aspects which we will explore, we have a very powerful Aquarius full moon. And this one is going to be of a great magnitude. And the reason for that is because the sun is going to be sitting in the sky with Jupiter exactly at 6 degrees of Leo. If you have anything within those first 10 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, or even of Taurus and Scorpio, you are going to feel this powerfully. This one is going to really hit you with power, with strength, with magnification and magnitude. The moon is going to be across the sky because it's a full moon in Aquarius, and it's going to be sitting with Pluto, which is going to bring up things from within ourselves or from behind the closet or under the rug that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be seen, that needs to be cleared. Whatever it is that comes up, there is a reason it's coming up. And I'd also like to say that this full moon that we're having is the last lunation before eclipse season starts. The lunations are a new moon and a full moon. So we just had a new moon in Cancer. Now we are approaching a full moon in Capricorn. And when we have the next new moon, it is going to be a solar eclipse. And whenever we have eclipses, whenever we enter eclipse season, we are redirected onto our path, onto the path that we are meant to evolve and grow on. So if we've lost track, and we've made decisions that are not aligning with our growth path, with our evolutionary path, then the eclipses are going to redirect us. And the eclipses will be in Leo and Aquarius for the coming year and a half. So let's get into the chart and we'll explore it with a little bit more depth. Here we have the 23rd, and on the 23rd, we have Mercury stationing direct. And it happens in the evening at around about 7 p.m. Eastern time. So adjust for your time zone as needed. As it's stationing, we start to feel the Mercury retrograde themes become a lot more highlighted and more prominent. So if you've noticed that there have been misunderstandings or mishaps in perhaps sending emails or text messages, if you've noticed that maybe technology has been breaking down or something all of a sudden stops working, the Wi-Fi craps out, whatever it is, this is because Mercury stationing direct. from its retrograde. So the two moments in time where Mercury retrograde is its most powerful is during the station. And that's with any retrograde. So if it's with the Saturn retrograde, a Pluto retrograde, a Mars retrograde, it's when it stations. As soon as it starts to move on, then we start to see all of the themes unfold. And so the last 3 weeks, we have been going through this Mercury retrograde experience. And for some of us, it's been exes coming back into our lives, hearing from people that we used to have relationships with, or maybe even old friends. Like for myself, it's been a lot of old friends from back home that I haven't spoken to in a while, and we've been reconnecting. For one of my friends, she heard back from 3 of her exes that she's dated over the last few years, and she messaged me and said, "What's going on? Why am I hearing from all of these guys?" And so it can be different for everybody. For some people, it could be perhaps exploring an old career path, or reconnecting with an old boss or a mentor, or your college or high school classmates. So Mercury retrograde tends to bring back people from the past. It tends to bring back experiences and emotions from the past, especially in Cancer. Cancer is a very nostalgic sign. And so as it's been exploring this area in Cancer, we have been perhaps reevaluating where our emotional safety lies, or reevaluating how we felt in certain situations, because it's such an emotional sign. It's a water sign. As Mercury stations direct, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be clear right off the bat. I think that majority of the clarity is actually going to come next week when we have this full moon, but we start to feel like things are starting to clear up, and we're starting to gain a little bit more traction on our ideas, and things are starting to come through that maybe perhaps we didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle before, and things are starting to make sense. So Mercury, as it stations direct, is squaring Saturn, and Saturn is stationing retrograde. On the 26th of July, it goes retrograde. So we'll explore that in just a moment. But when we look at squares, things are more tense. Things feel like they're uncomfortable, and something needs to be adjusted. Something needs to be taken seriously. There needs to be some sort of action attached to it. And so with this Saturn square Mercury, or Mercury square Saturn, while both of them are stationing, means that both of them are very powerful in their stations. And this square off is really making Mercury take things more seriously. So we, as we experience this square over the next week, we are going to need to take things seriously. We're going to need to ensure that the words that come out of our mouths are something that we really stand by. The decisions that we make are ones that we stand by. The actions that we take are backing our words, that we are aligning in an emotionally mature and responsible way. As Mercury moves direct, we may be getting these realizations or these light bulb moments. And with that may come some responsibility. We may need to step up and commit to something if it's meaningful to us. It needs to be meaningful to us. It needs to feed our soul in some sort of way. Sometimes Mercury as mental energy can be very fleeting, right? It can be just words for the sake of saying words, or ideas that just sort of come and go. But when we have Saturn involved, Saturn really grounds it and it makes it very real. So if you are someone who says things but doesn't follow through, you may get called out on that in particular over the next week. Or if there is somebody who is speaking words but not following through with the actions, they will get called out on that, whether it's from you or someone else. That is going to be very apparent, I feel like, over the next week. Where are our actions aligned with our words? Are we backing the things that we say? If we make a decision, can we commit to that decision? Is this going to be something that we can hold with integrity over the coming 5 to 6 months? Because Mercury has squared off with Saturn before, this is not the first square. This is not, whatever was coming up right now is not something new. This is something that's being revisited. So maybe a conversation needs to be had again. Maybe a decision needs to be finalized, or a plan that you've been reworking can finally start to move forward and we can start to take action on it. It could also be maybe an emotion that you were repressing and sweeping under the rug during Mercury retrograde is now coming back to the surface, and it needs to be faced, it needs to be expressed, it needs to be shared from a place of emotional maturity. We need that maturity as we express, as we share, as we open up, because it's through that maturity that we're going to perhaps gain the outcome that we really desire. Sometimes when we're impulsive, we can say things that we don't mean, we can do things that we don't mean, and that can cause more damage than if we take a step back, we take a beat, we pause, and we ensure that what's coming out of us is what we can stand by. So this is when the test begins. We are starting to get tested because whenever Saturn is involved, it's either a reality check of some sort, it is a call to be responsible, to take action, to step up, to be the adults in the room. And so as this all begins and we move ahead into the weekend, so this would be Saturday, by Sunday, we have Saturn stationing retrograde at 14 degrees. And so now we're going to be internalizing that Saturn energy, that personal authority, and we're going to be reflecting on the commitments that we have made. We are going to be reflecting on them because anything that Saturn builds, it builds to last. Whenever Saturn is involved, it crystallizes, it rules the material world, it rules the world that we live in, and it rules consequences at the same time. So it's, yes, it can restrict and it can make things a little bit more difficult or feel a little bit more difficult, but ultimately it's testing you to make sure, is this what you really want? Because this is what you'll get. And if it's not what you want, you're still going to have to deal with it. It's like if you can't take care of a dog, don't buy one or adopt one just to give it away, because there's going to be a consequence in that, and other people get affected from that. There is an emotional and physical and very real mental commitment that comes with Saturn. So the decisions that you make sure that they are the decisions that you are going to stand by. When Saturn retrogrades, it'll be retrograde for approximately 5 months. And that retrograde time frame is going to be a time frame where we will reflect on all of the commitments that we've made, especially recently, and recognize how we can move forward in a mature and responsible manner. Sometimes the consequences of previous actions, if they were not coming from that place of maturity, will come up during a retrograde. If you said you want something, Saturn is going to ask you, are you sure you want it? Because I'm going to give it to you and you need to stand by it. With Saturn, we have a tendency to shrink ourselves. We have a tendency to feel a little bit smaller because fears and shame and all of these self-criticisms can come up within us. That is very Saturn. And so the test here may come out as a presentation of the thing that you want and how you react and respond to it. Are you welcoming it with open arms, even if you don't feel fully ready for it yet? Or are you pushing it away and saying, oh, I'm not sure that I can deal with that yet. I'm not sure I can handle that yet. If you want the relationship, are you ready to step into it maturely and commit? If you want a job opportunity, are you ready to step up to the plate and put in the work? If you wanted to start a consulting business and you receive your first client, are you pushing them away, turning them down, or not answering your phone? Not answering your email? If you wanted something to change, are you willing to change your behavior to match that change? That's what Saturn's going to bring up. That is what this square is going to start showing us. And with Saturn retrograding, we are going to be exploring that over the next 5 months. As we move forward, we'll begin to see the moon approach Pluto and the sun approach Jupiter. And this is where we get, let's go ahead with hours now because it's happening in the morning. This is where we get to our Aquarius full moon. So we have the sun at 6 degrees and the moon will reach 6 degrees. The sun will be exactly conjunct Jupiter, honestly, just a few minutes away from each other, which is wild. and the moon will be conjunct Pluto. And this is a really powerful, big, magnified full moon. This is huge. This full moon is massive. And it's not just because of this opposition, but if you look closely, this opposition is being T-squared by Chiron at 0 degrees of Taurus. Not only do we have this T-square, but we have Mars at 21 degrees of Gemini, opposite Black Moon Lilith at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, with Venus making a T-square with these two in opposition. That's 2 T-squares so far in the chart. Venus, the divine feminine, in her fall, in a area, in a sign that it doesn't enjoy, because it's not free to be whatever it wants to be, to have fun, to be involved in the pleasure. It has to get serious, and it has to put in some work, and it's really trying to fix and refine things so that things can be a little more perfect. It really, it kind of focuses on perfection when it's here. It can't just relax. And then you have Black Moon Lilith, which is all about this feminine rage and liberation and wanting to be free. And it's also representative of our sexual desires in a sign that wants that freedom and adventure. And it's opposite Mars. Mars is a sexual planet. Mars is a masculine planet, and it's in Gemini, and it's all up in the head. It's gaining so much information. There's so much happening within the mind and so much happening with communication that there's a standoff. There's a standoff. Are we locked in our brains, especially with Venus in Virgo? Virgo is very head heavy. This is where it categorizes all the information and compartmentalizes and organizes and wants everything to be very structured. Whereas Black Moon Lilith is saying, whatever, man, let's just have some fun. And Mars wants to have fun too, but Mars is really stuck in the head. It wants to take action, but it's stuck in the head. And sometimes the action is really just through words. There's not a lot of movement. So we have this T-square, Mars, Venus, and Black Moon Lilith. We have Sun, Moon standing with Pluto and Jupiter with Chiron. We have one more T-square in the chart, which is crazy. We have the South Node, the North Node, and Uranus. So that's 3 T-squares in the chart. It is a wild chart. A lot of these are major players. So anyways, let's break this down. Full moons illuminate. It brings things to the surface. It creates a lot of light and awareness around certain situations. Things get revealed. Things come to a head or come to a culmination or to an end. Things can wrap up finally. Things can be celebrated. A lot of weddings happen on full moons because it's a celebration. It's like we've reached this point of we ended one chapter and we're now about to begin a new chapter. So with this full moon, because the sun is on one side of the chart and the moon is on the other side of the chart, the sun shines its light and the moon reflects that light back. And wherever the moon is, that's what it reflects. And it's in Aquarius. The sun in Leo, the moon in Aquarius. So let's break this down. Let's start with the sun and Jupiter. They're in pretty much an exact conjunction. The sun illuminates. It is our health, our vitality, our life. It rules outward energy, right? The sun shines bright. It gives off its light. It doesn't shy away because of who it's around. It just is. It's this bright energy. And it's in its home sign of Leo. And Jupiter is really magnifying Leo. It's making Leo grander than life. It is bringing to the surface confidence, ambition, inspiration, creativity, playfulness, childlike curiosities and fun, pleasures, personal expression and personal creativity, or how we creatively express, whether it's through art or dance or poetry or whatever your thing is. That is what it's really magnifying. It also magnifies leaders. Leo rules leaders, and the sun also rules leaders. So it is magnifying leaders. We may see leaders really take center stage during this full moon. It magnifies generosity and pride and heart-filled experiences, heart-to-heart conversations, heart-to-heart connections, passion. It can also magnify our egos, drama, the desire for acknowledgement, and the need to be seen, applauded, and understood. Leo doesn't necessarily need this, but sometimes in the shadow, that is what people can get stuck in. And I only bring that up because it is opposing Pluto, and Pluto represents the shadow. Pluto is shadows. Pluto is what we bury beneath the surface, what we repress, what we don't want to face. Pluto can represent things like manipulation and deception and, lies, hidden powers, authority that sort of operates behind the curtains. An Aquarius moon tries to process through logic and rationality. Aquarius is an emotionally detached sign, whereas Leo is an emotionally, not an emotionally ruled sign, but it rules the heart. So it's very expressive from the heart, whereas Aquarius is a lot more in the head. It's a fixed air sign. So it's stuck in its ideas and its opinions and its ideologies and its rationalities and all of the things that operate within the mental space. And with that, there's an emotional distance. And as it connects with Pluto, it's going to make that emotional detachment a lot more apparent. Pluto is retrograde. So Pluto is bringing to the surface. It's been reviewing a lot of the things that we've buried deep. And a lot of those things can be things like our fears, our obsessions, any resentment that we have, jealousy, control, the need to control, the things that we've been conditioned to do, we're told to do, these were the norms. We're starting to see things like that. We may also have a lot more understanding with this because it intellectualizes. We may be able to understand why certain people operate the way that they do, why they think the way that they do, why they choose the actions that they do. It may help us understand if we have an avoidant or someone who is detached, or we are avoidant or detached. It may help us understand that a little bit better, where we start to have aha moments and revelations and realizations. Some of them can be painful. Some of them can be old wounds. Some of them can come back from the trauma that we lived that made us that way. The abandonment that we experienced when we were kids or something like that. Because of this T-square with Chiron, Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is that wound that does not heal, that we work towards and we try to heal, and we treat it with tender, loving care. And with it being in Taurus, we may be looking at wounds of self-worthiness, of recognizing our value, of knowing that we are worthy of love. We are worthy of a good job and stability, and to have, a strong savings account or whatever. Anything that is Taurus related, maybe even just we're worthy of having a connection with somebody that feels stable and grounded, but that also offers pleasure. And with Leo's involvement and Aquarius's involvement, maybe it's, having healthy communication patterns and being able to connect and align on a lot of things and have fun together. You are worthy of it. But do you recognize that you're worthy of it? And if you don't recognize that, I think that there's going to be some sort of revelation, aha moment that's going to help you see the patterns and the processing and the conditioning and everything that lies beneath the surface during this full moon. So I mentioned that there are 2 other T-squares happening during this full moon. Let's explore this one briefly. I've covered it in a previous video, but we'll just go over it right now. So whenever we look at the North Node and the South Node, we look at what we're growing towards and what we're leaving behind, or what we're evolving from, what we are changing and shifting, and not getting stuck in, because this is sort of been outgrown and tends to hold a lot of the shadow aspects of ourselves. So as the lunar nodes retrograde, I'm using the mean lunar node, so they're still within these signs, but as they retrograde, they will very soon move into Leo and Aquarius. So they're wrapping up their retrograde journey between Pisces and Virgo. And the South Node in Virgo has been asking us to let go of the need to fix, the need to control, the need to keep everything so meticulously, organized and planned, and to get so caught up in the details. We can leave that behind. With the North Node in Pisces, we're being asked to find a lot more softness and surrender in the flow of life, especially as Uranus squares off with them. We are being challenged with a lot of drastic changes. There's a lot of ideas coming through. Our mental processing is happening a lot faster than we can even comprehend. And so a lot of us have been feeling extremely exhausted lately, and that's because of this square. And this will eventually move on, so we won't feel that exhaustion as much. However, right now, there's a lot happening, and we just need to go with the flow. Sometimes they won't feel like they're working out in our favor, but they are working out in our favor because whatever happens with the lunar nodes tends to be fate-based, tends to be a little bit more aligned with our evolutionary path and where we're meant to be. There is still that element of free will, but it's the lunar nodes redirect us. They help to reset us on the path that we are supposed to be exploring in this life. Sometimes we fall off path and sometimes we stay on path. And if we're not on path, then this is going to be a redirection. But with the North Node in Pisces, we need to just have compassion for ourselves, have compassion for others, know that people make mistakes. We don't need to judge and criticize and make people feel really small or make ourselves feel really small. We can forgive and we can move on and continue to grow and trust that we are all learning and we are all growing and we're all moving through this experience in this journey of life together. Even though I have my own journey and you have your own journey, we're still all moving through this experience together. Pisces recognizes that we are not individual drops of water, but rather together we are all one big, massive ocean. We are not individual sparks of light, but rather we are that one big light of the universe. Pisces recognizes that oneness. So as we move through a lot of changes and other people move through changes and perhaps some people lose their minds a little bit, we start to have a little bit more of an understanding that, hey, it's okay. Everyone's going through something and we're all going through it together at the same time. On a collective scale, on a collective level. All right, now Mars in Gemini is very quick and it's quick thoughts and a clever mind and being very witty and having quick responses. They can also be cutting. We can have mental agitation and anxiety and a lot of inflammation when it comes to like our thought patterns and the mental space, very fast speech, rash, impulsive decisions that are made based off of incomplete information. Mars can be very impulsive. So when it operates in an air sign, it moves very quickly. Like there's nothing slowing it down. And Venus, they're squaring off, right? You have the divine masculine and divine feminine, and they're in a square. They're at odds with each other. And Venus is in her fall while she's in Virgo. And Venus in Virgo really, really needs consistency. And it's really reaching for perfection. It wants the perfect relationship. It wants the perfect dynamic. It wants the perfect experience, the perfect date, the perfect, morning, the perfect evening, the perfect movie, the perfect everything needs to be perfect because Virgo is all about the refining to reach perfection, right? It's opposite of Pisces, and Pisces represents that divine perfection. And it's like, it's always looking to bring itself as close to it as possible. And in that, there's a lot of devotion that comes with Virgo. Virgo is a very selfless sign. It actually devotes a lot of its care, its heart, its energy to other people. Virgo rules the service-based signs or the service-based occupations like nursing and volunteering for the fire department and police service. So Venus here really craves that consistency, or craves reliability as it's in an earth sign, consideration, and appreciates the daily effort, the work that you put in every single day to tend to something like your garden so that you can reap the rewards of juicy fruit, hearty vegetables. Venus in Virgo loves the little things. The little things make the big things look small. The little things of a simple text message every day to check up on somebody that you know is going through something. Those little things make the biggest difference for Virgo. And with Venus and Virgo, that's what's being craved. That is what we want. So we have this erratic, rash behavior that's not really consistent. And then we have divine feminine wanting that consistency. And then we have Black Moon Lilith that wants the freedom to do whatever it wants to do. Black Moon Lilith can bring forth the part of us that does not want to be controlled or silenced or shamed or minimized or forced into a role that violates its truth. Lilith wants to be liberated. It wants to do the things that it wants to do. It connects us with our freedom as it sits in Sagittarius, our freedom, our belief systems. Do we still believe the things that we were taught to believe, or are we breaking free from the old beliefs because it does not make sense? It does not align with our truth. Do we have sovereignty and autonomy in the decisions that we make for ourselves, for our bodies, for our pleasures and our experiences, for our adventures? This T-square will bring up tension in relationships and relationship dynamics. And that tension is going to be probably very likely around safety and freedom. Do we have all the information? Is the information that we have, does that feel safe? Does the action match the information that's being presented? Do we have the freedom to do the things that we want to do or to receive the things that we want to receive? And because they're immutable signs, there's a shift and a change happening. There's a lot going on in this chart, but overall, the main themes that keep coming up through all of these connections is, do our actions match our words? Does the person that we're interacting with also follow through with the things that they say they're going to follow through with? Is there accountability? Are we operating from a place of truth, our truth? Do we know who we are and what we want? And are we expressing that from a place of emotional maturity and from our hearts? How are we communicating? How are we reacting? Are we taking a beat and a pause before we react so that we can gain the outcome that is more desirable without having to face the consequences of the impulsive reaction? Mercury is stationing direct on the 23rd, and Saturn will retrograde on the 26th. And then we have this full moon in the middle of the week next week on Wednesday, July 29th. So the next 7 days is going to be packed. At the same time, we have a square off with the divine feminine and the divine masculine, with Black Moon Lilith involved, and the sun and the moon with Chiron involved. Like, there's so much happening that I'm curious to know how this is hitting you in your life, how this is showing up for you. Feel free to leave a comment below on your experience if you'd like to share it, because we can all learn from each other, right? We all have our own individual experiences, but we're in this together. I think I'd mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it again because I think it's very important. The full moon next week is the last lunation before we enter eclipse season, meaning that the next lunation, which is the Leo new moon, is going to be a solar eclipse. We enter eclipse season, and now things operate a little bit differently with eclipse season. Whenever we deal with eclipses, things are a little bit more faded. Things feel a little bit more like they're happening outside of our control. We experience things that are a little bit more grand, and with Jupiter in Leo, they're going to be grand. The South Node is going to be in Leo, so we may be experiencing and exploring the shadow aspects of Leo, right? Full moons illuminate, and eclipses, they redirect us on our path, especially if they're hitting something in particular in your chart. Again, because this is the final lunation before eclipse season begins, whatever is revealed is going to give us information on what is unfolding for us in the near future. We'll be able to understand what the next major shift is, the next major cycle is going to hold for us. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you. I wish you a beautiful full moon and a lovely 7 days to come. Take care.